Hey guys, we have another fluency passage for this week. This is a new one. It's called Two Brothers Remember Lives Spent with Liberty. If you don't remember what we did last week, what you'll do is you'll read this passage, or you'll set a timer for 1 minute, and then you'll read the passage, and then you'll mark where you stop, and you'll count the words you read, and then on the next slide, in this box, you'll tell me how many words you read. Now, since today is the first day with this new story, that means I'm going to talk about the story a little bit and read it out loud before you read it. Okay. Um, so pay really close attention because it'll help you read more words. All right. So the story is called Two Brothers Remember Lives Spent with Liberty. Okay. Some words you might want to know before you read are a childhood, with childhoods, which is a time early in a person's life or when you're a child. Commuted is when you travel back and forth. A lot of people use that word commute when they talk about going to work. They commute to work, they travel to work. Maintenance, keeping a thing or a place in good condition. And then liberty, having the right to act or speak freely, the power to choose what you want to do. This liberty word is something we've talked a lot about in social studies the last couple weeks. We're talking about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to read it out loud, and I need you to follow along with your eyes while I read it out loud. Brothers Paul and James Bizarro, both in their 80s, spent their childhoods living in a house right behind the Statue of Liberty. Their family moved to the same small island in New York Harbor as Lady Liberty 75 years ago this summer, not long after their father, also James, became a guard at the statue. When the Bizarros moved to what's now called Liberty Island in 1937, Paul was 8 and James was 6. Half of the island was for the visitors. The half that we lived in, we had the whole half to us, says James. But we were allowed to do whatever we wanted, so we used to go up to the torch, Paul remembers. And if you shook enough, the whole arm would shake, James says. The boys shook it once when their mother was walking up. She never went up again, Paul says. We used to go on the ferry to go to the school, and I remember Sister Alphonsus Marie. She was tough like a truck driver, James says. She was mean, but she was always talking about the island, so I invited her to come to the statue. And we climbed the head, and she says, "Oh," she says, "this is the closest I'm going to get to heaven." But she never treated me any better or any different. In 1944, the family moved back to Brooklyn, where they had lived before moving to the island, though their father still commuted to the statue. And the way a person knows every corner of his house, he knew every corner of that Statue of Liberty, says James. Their father retired in 1971 after 36 years there. He had been a guard for about a year, then began working in maintenance, and eventually became the maintenance supervisor. When he retired, it took 11 men to replace him. He was the man that kept the statue lit. The lights, they never went out when he worked, Paul says. Alright, now on the next slide, you're going to start reading. Set your timer, read for 1 minute, and then write your words in this black box. Alright, bye guys.